just to be clear. Oh boy. In the bottom right is the red Terran. It is GuMiho for Team Psystorm Gaming. In the top left is the blue Protoss. It is Deer, who is not on a team, I guess. I remember the times he was on Mouse Sports. He had the cool jersey they have, which is like a jacket. And he was back on Samsung Galaxy, which was the last remnant of the Kespa League. Kespa teams. Not anymore. And then hasn't been on a team since then. So that was back in 2016. Deer has been teamless for quite some time. Still managing to find some strong performances here and there. But did not do so well versus TY. Can he perform better versus GuMiho? TY and GuMiho can sometimes have similar playstyles as far as like tricky builds that they come up with. But I think TY is generally a more consistent, better overall player. Proof being, I guess, his performances, his results, right? GuMiho has always had that struggle a little bit with his mechanics. His time at GSL, when he won it, seemed to be the time where he was strongest, macro and micro-wise. And it's back down to what we would usually expect from GuMiho. So, obviously very good, but more so about his decision-making and his builds than maybe his execution of everything. So Deer might, you know, be weirded out again by the proxy factory with a factory at home. Okay, maybe GuMiho also has that build in his pocket, but maybe the execution won't be as good as a more direct, I guess, example. But GuMiho is one of the players going for those high ground command centers. As I said, most Terran players don't want to do this, but it's like, well, you know, you're gonna lose SCV and you're gonna have it delayed anyways, so I mean, why not, I guess. So it may come down to personal preference, as more and more Protoss just refuse not to go for this. And Deer to go for the forward gateway, which is resulting into the second faster adept, which is not going to find any command center to tackle this time. Marine seems it was looking for a proxy, which it did not find. But that was a nice scout. It was good. Otherwise, he doesn't have a Reaper. He can't get the scout. So now it is guesswork, but it's safer guesswork. He won't die to a proxy start date. The Marines perfectly microed. He knew something against an adept, but they weren't supposed to let her in. I don't think she'll shade in. She just gets a scout. That's really what she wanted anyway. Cyclone's on the way. Liberator, maybe? Cyclone, medevac. Okay. Okay. So maybe some medevac harassment with double Cyclone. Can get out of hand in some situations. You add on the micro of the lock-on, being able to just run away once you have it locked on. Plus the medevac micro. Suddenly, you get a little bothersome. Phoenix is on the way after the Oracle, which is making its way across the map right now. Cyclone's not going to quite be in position. Something that Deer is going to notice with the Adept Scout. Okay. I thought maybe I spoke too soon, but no. Not going to try and intercept. And it's not going to be the Cyclone drop. He goes for a tank after and a Viking, so it's just a Marine drop. Which doesn't usually deal as much damage, right? Like talking about Cyclone damage versus Marine damage without stim. Cyclone damage usually does better, but it does mean that you have multiple things to attack as the Protoss player, instead of just one big honking thing that can actually be a little vulnerable. And the micro can still be very impressive with this. And also it can maybe clear up Phoenix a little bit easier. Since there's going to be more than one Phoenix, Cyclone would have had trouble. Very, very, very light amount of harassment regardless of what was in that medevac. Oracle is pushed away, Marines unload, not be tagged by the Phoenix, and the game goes on. Oracle runs by. Yep. Oh, hey! Oh, look at that. SCV pool for a very early tank push. Medevac being kept alive was most important. So honestly, GuMiho even risking its death by doing that marine harassment was a little bold. But it works out. He's got all of his units up together. Almost all together. And Deer did not see this coming. So he might be a little like, okay, hold on here. That's not a lot of SCVs with a natural. It might be a little suspicious. He didn't actually see the army on the way. And doesn't stop it at all before it gets here. No attempt to even lift up a Cyclone or take out the Viking. This is kind of the worst case scenario for a Protoss player. The Cyclone helped against a Phoenix. The Vike is going to help against a Phoenix. The tanks are going to get their shots off. Marine's still alive and well. Cyclone's still alive and fairly well. And Deer just cannot get a handle on this matchup, it seems. GG. That's it. Yeah, Deer is... You're struggling against these pushes. We didn't need a feat earlier on to even get this far. Deer beat Trap and SOS. So he made this far by winning against Protoss and losing against TY. So this might be a very obvious example of one matchup being better than the other. I can't be super critical about how Deer is performing just because it's even when I watch Protoss who do well against that type of stuff, I'm like, the contrast is so large. You'd think it'd be like an obvious, well, clearly you should do that or that. But it seems like there are some builds or some Protoss players that just can't handle these pushes. It feels like Deer's doing all of those instead of ones that can. It's hard to be critical of a guy who should know what to do, I guess. Yeah. It's like Deer having trouble. Naturally, you assume he changes things up. He does change things up, I guess, a little bit. Target opener instead of a Twilight Council opener. But then still dies. So am I going to sit here and be like, well, Deer, obviously you should go for, I don't know, more Phoenix, faster charge. Like, obviously, like, come on now. All those other Protoss aren't having as much trouble. But I don't know. Regardless if I want to be critical or not of a very, very good Protoss, but I guess not versus the Terrans nowadays. It does seem to be a situation where I'm just like, I don't expect much from this fourth game, this fourth TVP that Deer has played, second game versus GuMiho. I think Deer doesn't have his way of handling things set yet, and his way, right, well, I guess his way is dying, but that's not a good way. And he needs to get more practice in, basically. It's not often you say that because these guys are practicing so damn much, but I think that they would even say that. Deer's probably just like, you know what, I need to figure out some way to deal with these things, because other Protoss are living. I mean, maybe they're not winning, but they're living longer. And I'm not living very long at all. That last game really was a lot to do with not scouting it, though, and that seems to be one of Deer's main problems, so I guess I'll criticize that mostly. Okay, Deer's gonna really change things up. In the bottom right is the red Terran, it is GuMiho. The top left is the blue Protoss, it is Deer. And he is proxying that pylon. GuMiho did not go for a Reaper last game. Something that Deer was probably noticing. And while GuMiho did scout for a proxy Stargate, that in this map, for instance, would be something like over here, or maybe over here. But I don't know if a Marine would scout over here, where there is a proxy gateway on the way. Now, it's not the most proxy gate we've ever seen. And that does sometimes contribute to the defense of the Terran player. But it is going to be a surprise, because GuMiho doesn't Reaper scout that quick, even if he does get a Reaper, and he is getting a Reaper. And he's not SCV scouting, which is totally normal for a TVP. Like, this should be a surprise 8 times out of 10. Just a question of, does it snowball or not? Yeah. Yeah, we have Drogo in here. Maybe he can be critical of Deer. I'll tell him what's up. You should, though. You should. It really sucks for Deer, too. Like, he feels like confident. He's like, yeah, I'm already 2 series in. Like, I beat, like, 2 good Protoss. My PvP's looking good. Okay, here's a Terran. You know, I've been struggling a little bit, but maybe today's the day. And then, wham! Gets fucking knocked on his ass. 2 different Terrans. So really changing things up is a great way to go. I'm glad to see it, but is it going to work out? Already getting the stall out on the command center is what you expect from this. Does it snowball? We have a widow mine on the way. Ideally, you eventually add a cyclone, but then waiting for the tech lab takes a while, so it's not easy peasy. Bunker does need to finish up here, so you can see he's going to try and micro out these SCVs, but the Marine's up on the wrong side, so that bunker doesn't, it's not worth much. The Reaper's going to go in, and that's about it. Widow mine is going to get a pop off, ideally on the Zealot for Deer. If his probe was still alive, it was on that, would be the next ideal. The Zealot is gone, but the supply depot is broken. Does GuMiho have another supply depot being made? No, he is totally supply blocked. The Marines can't be made, the Cyclone can't be made, the command center is canceled. And he just finally get unsupply blocked by losing units, but this was not an ideal hold whatsoever. Like, the bunker not being a little bit faster, and initially kind of on the wrong side too. The Cyclone being stalled out means that there's no potential grab at least one of these stalkers. This is still a lot of time for Deer to get a second supply depot. This is a strong start for the Protoss, who also got the cancel, of course. GuMiho, as soon as he canceled, he rebuilt it. But, oh no, that's a starport. I was gonna say, wait a minute, he's still banking a lot of minerals. Hold on here. Just kidding then. If you cancel it as soon as you see that on the way and you rebuild it, sometimes it's like okay. You're like, you cut your losses early, and then if you wait a long time and rebuild it, then suddenly you're as behind as the Protoss wants you to be. But this is not a command center at all. That was a starport. This is 2 additional barracks. GuMiho is going to do an all-in from this, and Deer needs to figure that out. Now, Deer should be able to figure it out. He's got an Oracle that's going to scout a, remarkable lack of natural, and then maybe even get into the main base to see a lack of command center entirely. It should. GuMiho doesn't have a lot of units to deflect that, or a lot of space to deflect it either. If GuMiho was going to do like something 500 IQ and start setting widow mines over here and over here, then I guess he could. But I think GuMiho knows he's going to be scouted, and he's just hoping that Deer's so far lackluster defense against Terran will continue, even with a very, very, weird build. But weird's not the problem so much as it's weirdly not good usually. Like, I would say it's usually not good. But GuMiho going for it. Maybe he's done this in the past. Maybe it does work. I don't know. I guess if Deer were to follow up with the Twilight Council, which is possible, then he might be totally in the unknown and would die. But he knows about this and should be absolutely not cutting corners. His defense against this is going to be Phoenix, primarily, getting those good pickups. But weirdly enough, like, unlike the pushes we've seen from other builds, with the way they include Cyclone, Liberator, 2 tanks, widow mines, like, this is going to be mostly bio-based. And I wonder if Phoenix are actually the way to go. I don't know, we'll see. I think Deer basically picked his race. Oh my god. Good lord. Okay, well, there you go. Protoss criticizing Protoss. Well, yes, at the end of the day, these pushes are hard to hold. That's definitely for certain. Classic is making it look a little bit better, but even he lost 3-0 versus TUI. So the Phoenix are doing what they should to start things off, which is picking off units where they can. Okay, yeah. There's still such a large ground force. There's no way that GuMiho wins this. Right? Right? Maybe if Deer had taken the fight, like, back at home, so his production is being camped or something along those lines, but all the SCVs are dead. The Phoenix is still alive. This did end up looking to be as bad as I thought it would. GG. Did GuMiho have to all in off of that position? Maybe. Maybe. If he doesn't, there's like 5 minutes of game that could influence it one or the other, so I'm like, you know, question marking, but you know, okay, with that opening, he was behind. And when they're behind and they, you know, they figured that a tank push or all-in won't work, they do just have to think of something else, but I don't know if doing that was better than just trying to do a regular 2-base push. I guess the other thing to consider was it was Parasite. And no matter what GuMiho did, it was a long haul across the map. So he was hoping that maybe Deer got overconfident. Again, maybe that Deer didn't go for anything that's scouted. He went for Twilight Count, something like that. And unfortunately, those hopes did not come into play. They did not come to fruition. GuMiho was really without a hope as soon as he went out to push like he did. That takes us to game number 3. Deer takes 1 win off of the Terran. It's all tied up in the loser's bracket in the bottom right as the red Terran. It is GuMiho. In the top left, as the blue Protoss, it is Deer. So GuMiho gonna be a little more on guard. You know, that was a game where he did go for the natural command center, despite the first game going for the high ground. The high ground being more so he doesn't have to deal with the pesky little adepts push at the front. But in last game, it was a proxy gateway as well. So it was like the worst case scenario to do that. Maybe this time he goes to the high ground again. Or he could go for an SCV scout. Like that's also something he could do to try and take less damage. And if he takes less damage, and he gets set up for the tank push, or whatever push he wants to do, that's what ends up killing all the Protoss. It kills the Protoss, and specifically Deer. There's this nice thing that happens when Terran players get to do these tank pushes. And it's not just win the game. It's that with tanks being so good defensively and offensively, as long as you're not trapped in the middle of the map, they get to kind of just focus on their build. When it came to the other Terran builds you have seen in the past, you occasionally still see now. You know, Widowmine drops, 3 racks. 3 racks is totally dead now. Yeah, Widowmine drops, Liberal Harassment. What else here? Just like a typical 2-1-1 build, something like that, right? Something that requires you to be doing damage, to have a drop going, to have multiple drops going. It doesn't actually focus so much on one big push. You don't really get to just do your build. You have to do the drops. You have to make sure the drops don't die. You have to make sure the Widowmines burrow. You have to target fire the Widowmines. You have to make sure your macro is going all back at home, but maybe you mistime your supply depots, your engineering bays, your barracks. When you do these builds, Terrans do kind of just sit back, say, throw what you got at me. And generally, whether it's Oracle, Blink Stalker, or some type of Warp Prism shenanigans, it doesn't break the Terran. So the Protoss says, well, I'll just do what I usually do, go to 3rd base, try and macro up, and the Terran goes, well, I'll see you in 2 minutes. Give me 2 minutes, and I'm going to meet you at the front door of your 3rd base. And, well, that's where the actual TVP really gets determined. So that's what's nice about it, in my opinion. You know, I don't know if the Terrans on the pro level are really considering that. Well, in my eyes, they're just being like, this is so much easier. I just defend and then I push, like one big push. Oh, that's great. But I certainly consider it. And we do see, oftentimes, very crisp pushes because of that. Crispy. So GuMiho did go for the high ground command center. There were no proxy gateway shenanigans and no proxy Stargate shenanigans either, although it is, again, a Stargate. Oracle on the way, GuMiho opening up how he did in the first game, so we might just see the follow-up being the same. Big problem in that first game was Deer not even seeing the attack coming. Did not do any damage to the medevac or pick up a Marine or something like that with the Phoenix before the attack was literally on top of his production because he had walled off in that first game as well. That should be different this time around, but is it different enough to cause a victory for Deer? I don't know. I don't know. Now, one good thing that could really happen for Deer here is that he's able to take out this medevac, but that is unlikely. Oh, the timing. The plays don't quite work out, but that was a good idea. He saw the opportunity and he tried to take it, but the Oracle lives. Enhance your calm. Oh my god, Pinnacle. Demolition Man. Reference. I watched that like a month ago. Such a good film. Twilight Council Forge. No, very quick third base, because that's something that you're gonna have to consider, since you're expecting GuMiho to do some type of push before you're all set up ready to go. So well, this time to get charged a little bit faster. Oh, Phoenix goes down. And they aren't in high enough number to take on the Cyclones, so they're just going to skedaddle. But more Phoenix are on the way. Let's see what he starts the Twilight Council off with. As he sees these aggressive Cyclones, he did not see the Marines come forward, I don't think, but he should be expecting it. So he's going to meet the army about, I don't know, not halfway, but he's going to meet him on the ramp at least. I was going to try and go with feet, but I'm like, how do you put feet in StarCraft terms? You can't. Stasis Trap attempt does not work out, because the scan reveals the high ground anyways, and despite Deer trying to meet this a little forward, it is still going to get sieged up. But it's not a second tank this time. Second Cyclone, though. Vike on the ground helping against the mechanical units. Oracle popped off. Phoenix being target fired to the Marines. Still good control here from our Terran player. Viking now taking out the... Oh, I was like, what? Why is that medevac healing that Viking? Of course, the SCVs are still alive, so they were repairing it while it was lifted. That was some good target fire by GuMiho to make this almost work, but I think Deer might have a handle this time. More Stalkers are warped in. Phoenix is still alive. Tank will get a shot. Bonger's coming down now, but that's not going to be able to finish, I'm pretty sure. Tank actually goes down here. Another Viking lands, however. Medevac's being repaired. Marine's still alive somehow. Medevac not out of energy. How are you not out of energy? More Marines making their way across the map, but GuMiho now realizing he's got to get away. He's going to send whatever SCVs he can back home, but that is a lot of army left over for Deer here, who has yet to start his upgrades. But because he didn't start them, he had enough to reinforce to his fullest capabilities, and will now even initiate a bit of a counter, but without Blink, I don't think it's going to be very much. SCVs, why? You could have lived. You could have. Well, now all of them die. But if a wall set up on the front lines is maybe an urgent, just I need to slap my barracks down at this point in time, but it also is providing a wall, so if it's on purpose, it's a good on purpose. The Stalkers, without Blink, would have had a tough time against two tanks anyways, and now they're just going to leave. What was that hold? He held! He did it! He did it! Viking will see the third Nexus, and there should be thoughts swirling around in GuMiho's mind about what the Twilight Council tech is. He sees so many Stalkers that there might be an assumption that Blink's on the way, but it is in fact just right to charge. If he were to know that somehow, if it was like a Stargate and revealed what upgrade it was getting and he was able to get a scout on it, maybe that changes how he plays, maybe, but most likely not. If it's charge, he still wants to do a push, but maybe he does more drops. For instance, if it's Blink, he doesn't do any drops. Like, I guess that would be the biggest difference. But he doesn't know, so he's just gonna do what he's doing now, which is waiting, defending, 2 base all inning. I expect more SCVs to be pulled. We are on 5 barracks in total, and in this matchup, it's pretty rare to get a 3rd CC beyond that. These Phoenix are not really useful anymore, but they're keeping tabs. I guess the Oracle wasn't rebuilt, yeah. So they're the only thing keeping tabs. That and the Stalker, which doesn't have blinks, it'll die. Storm is on the way. Charge is done. Blink, it's useful. It's not something that you can always give up in exchange for the upgrades we see now, but if you can, if you're not punished by a big old Doom drop or something so stupid like that, then Charge and Storm is more so what you want against this, and an upgrade. So I'm liking Deer's position okay. Let's see how the tanks siege up and gets target fire on the High Templars. One medevac goes down. Good start for Deer, who does have 4 Storms in his pocket. But 4 tanks could target fire. The bios on the front lines. 1 tank's not even sieged. Zealotch up on top of this without the Marines on the backside helping out, and the tanks are not target firing the High Templars before the storms went down. This is a disaster. They're close to it. Deer has run out of storms, however. So maybe not a disaster. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hold on here. No more storms. All the charge lots have been expended, and he hasn't warped in them yet. There we go now. Archon's being made as well. The Deer should have just completely retreated once he dealt with what the first attack was. Once he dealt with that, retreating was probably the better option. GuMiho was reinforcing with a lot more bio and another tank even. More SVs are on the way. It's a complete 2-base all-in now. The last few remnants of economy are gone. Well, mules are good actually, but... Deer was expecting this, or should have been expecting this. He has no more storms. He does have the splash with the Archons, and Immortal even pops out as well. Can GuMiho make this work? The tank's not going to be sieged here. Feedbacks go down on the medevacs. Someone's going to keep them for storms, but it might be too late. The army busts through everything on the front lines. Deer losing out on supply, losing out those really important units. And the SCV buffer continues. More SCVs are on the way, chasing down what could be the storms. How many seconds away is it? Actually, he has the storms. But he's waiting for the juicy hits. This one not really juicy. Second one not going to be that juicy either. And GuMiho, I think, has done it. Deer had the tools for the first push, but the second push, the follow-up push, the reinforcements, whatever, was able to clinch it in the end. GG, GuMiho takes the 2-1.